What's up, everyone? Welcome to the latest episode of Power Spike. It's your boy dGon alongside Monty and Dom to bring you the world of LoL esports. For those of you watching live, thanks for hanging out. Monty, how are you doing, brother?
I'm great. I got to watch the Broncos play a preseason game, which gave me great hope, which will no doubt be crushed soon. But until then, I have a small amount of anticipation for the upcoming NFL season.
My Dolphins are going to beat you guys by like 70 again.
Are we playing? Are we playing?
No, I don't think we're on the schedule.
There's a little trepidation when I was like, oh shit, Monty, you really gonna bring up the Broncos because now Dom's just gonna fucking dunk on us.
I don't mind the Dolphins. I enjoy watching the
Who
Dolphins.
hates the
play.
Dolphins? Like the Dolphins, like they literally are just they haven't won a playoff game in like 20 years. Like how could you hate the Dolphins? It's like hating. It's like if you hate the Lions now and like Lions start having some success.
I know.
Like,
I need the Dolphins. I need the Dolphins. I support any AFC team that crushes the Chiefs. So it could be the Dolphins, could be the Ravens. Whoever does it is great in my book.
Yeah.
The Bills.
I'm done
awesome.
with the Chiefs.
Love it.
I'm done with the Chiefs.
Yeah, when Mahomes threw like this fucking behind the back pass to Kelsey, and then they did like finger gun shooters to each other, I was like, this is disgusting.
Yeah,
I hate
it's
this shit.
cringe. Like I'm seeing like every time I watch a game, they're just like they pan to Taylor Swift, and it's like, come on, bro. Like I'm tired of it. Like, I'm tired of the whole fucking thing. And
everybody's tired of the Chiefs. Is it better or worse than the Patriots dynasty?
Oh,
I still
way
think
better.
It's better.
Way
the
better.
Patriots were way too annoying.
The Patriots were so fucking annoying. Also, it's just they had this like there was like, I mean, obviously the Chiefs have ego, but the Patriots' ego was like unmatched. Like when you just saw like Tom Brady and like fucking and just Bill Belichick talking to each other, you could just like feel just like they would just sit there and be like, look at all these disgusting fucking players. They're so stupid about football. Like you could hear, like you could feel it coming off of them. It's like, fuck, man, please make it stop. Like,
yes, I agree, especially with those two and a couple of the other high profile players, but I felt like they had a ton of like good dude grinders.
Like Gronk.
Like they're yes, Gronk is in that
Edelman?
group. I meant
Edelman.
Edelman's in
Wes Welker.
Edelman
in that group with them. It's more of like the linebacking core. It's more the defense. The guys on the defense were like good dudes. I felt like they were good dudes, great football guys. And then you had like the elitists, apparently the white receivers that we all just named over there.
Oh, so like all the white guys were just like horrible. Nice. Great. Like, oh, perfect.
I will say all of that shit coming to light during like the Tom Brady like Netflix roast, pretty good. I'm pretty what was it? Oh, you guys think you're good? I'll go get someone from Foxborough High School. Catch the fucking ball. Whatever the fuck it was. It was pretty good.
I don't know. Like Tom Brady just seems like the type of guy that like jacks off to pictures of himself. Like, yeah, he just has that type of energy.
And he didn't start like that, but then he became that. He became the villain.
Yeah, he's just the GOAT. Like, I mean, he is just the GOAT, I guess. You just have to accept it.
He's not. Dude, he rode off of immense luck, defenses, and special teams. Get out of here.
I mean, who do you have as the GOAT then? Like, are you like an Aaron Rodgers?
Peyton
Manning?
Peyton Manning had a garbage Colts team. He was also just a better offensive mind. So anyway, he didn't have Belichick. He didn't have Belichick's defenses. But a lot of those Super Bowls were won in very low scoring games by the Patriots defense.
Yeah, Patriots defense was like the thing that carried. Like I saw stats about the Patriots defense, and it's like, wow, like holy fuck, like they're holding the like opposing to like a combined like 100 and something points over like 18 games. It's like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah. We just named like 6 receivers, and we left out like Randy Moss.
Yeah, but Randy Moss didn't win, right?
Tim Brown. We left out a ton of receivers for Tom Brady. Can you list 5 receivers for Peyton Manning? Give me 5.
Marvin Harrison,
right? Marvin and Reggie, sure. Then who?
Right. Well, do I have to be on the Colts?
Yeah,
like, that's the thing. Oh, on the Colts.
Yeah, because that was the shitty Colts team, right?
Bro, I don't even remember that
Marvin Harrison was
back then, to be honest.
Great.
Because then you had Dallas Clark. I'm not sure if you remember.
Clark, yeah.
Receiver number 3, Austin Collier.
Oh yeah, I remember him. Yep.
Right, and then like T.Y. Hilton was with Andrew Luck. That was the one with Peyton. So like, who is he fucking throwing to? That's a pretty good argument, Monty. But otherwise, I still would take Tom. I would still take Tom. I would.
I mean,
get
it's
outta
just Peyton Manning was just like he just felt like a real quarterback. I don't know. There was something just about his like gameplay that's very pure. Like it was just a very pure quarterback experience. This is like trying to argue though that like Rookie is better than Faker. That's like what it is to me. It's like you can like start with, it's like you start getting into it, it's like, yo, look at like all these years and who was Rookie playing with, and like look at like his gameplay like after like 2017 he's better for like all these years, and then you just go back to it. It's like it's just so hard to argue, you know? It's like,
yeah, it's very hard to argue. Sorry, Rookie. Sorry, Peyton. I love you both. All right, let's get to it.
all right,
We're starting
enough
off.
football.
Yeah, we're pissing off our European brothers. Brother Crassus, did we really start over an hour late to talk about American sports? Yes.
Yeah,
All right.
deal with it. It's free
And you will
content.
watch it
Stop
too, bitch.
whining.
Yeah. But also take the fact that I called you out now and acknowledged you. You're real.
Yeah,
Let's
probably
get to
the
it.
first acknowledgement you've got in the last like 10 years. So be happy,
No,
bro.
no. We didn't have to kill him. We didn't have to
Yeah,
kill him.
no,
We didn't have to kill
like,
him.
I don't know, bro. People that watch free content and just try to needle you perma, I have literally zero respect. Because like you got to think about like what that is. It's like if people are talking about something that they enjoy talking about, because I deal with this all the time as a streamer. Like I'll bring up something like we'll be watching a game that is completely over. It's like 10K gold lead, and then Yamato will bring up like, oh shit, UFC, like the Adesanya fight, like holy fit, it felt like he had it, and then DDP, and like we'll talk about that, which is far more interesting than a game where like Giants is down 10K, and then people will be like, can you talk about the game? Like I'm here for you to talk about the game. It's like. So like just fuck off, bro. Like why am I talking about like we have to talk about a game that's completely over? Like,
You could also just go
click a different
somewhere else.
stream. Like just go somewhere else. Yeah, literally just go somewhere else, please.
Just change the channel to the other one showing the same thing if you don't like this iteration of it.
Yep.
But it won't be as good.
Yeah.
And it won't be us. All right. Well, with that, now everything's on fire. And that is our first segment of the day. We're going to the West a little bit, just because we've done a lot of East, did a little LPL, did a little LCK. We're going West. Everything's on fire with our two teams from playoffs that didn't look good, losing hope. It's Dignitas and NRG. Let's get to it. LCS version of Everything's on Fire. All right, guys. So we had our two squads play. 100 Thieves played against
Jesus.
Dignitas.
Jesus, man.
FlyQuest and NRG.
Shout out to the corpse of Jensen that
Oh
flopped
my
around on his
God.
keyboard.
Shout out to the
like,
corpse of the 100 Thieves emote. I'm not going to do it on here because I don't want to get screenshot, but it got changed. But the social media team over 100 Thieves don't care or haven't been told to stop. And they showed the old emote with Akali like putting the fingers together really close, being like, oh, so close. And that little baby Dignitas in there. That was pretty awesome. I'm not sure if you guys saw that. I forgot that for a while. I was like, why is this the post? And I was like, oh, that's great. They always win. As huge of a win as they had over Dignitas. Let's start there. What is? I mean, we have to have 6 teams in playoffs, but what are Dignitas?
Whoa! I'm going to challenge that assumption.
Okay.
We have to have 6 teams in playoffs. Do we? Do we?
Yeah.
Although, you know, we wouldn't have had 100 Thieves in playoffs if there were only 4 teams. So
that's true. Which is one of the teams that I think we expect to make it on through and again beat the upper seed. But yeah, what do we think of that series here, Dom?
Oh, I mean, it was one of the most lifeless performances.
You know what disappointed me, Dom? That we didn't see the return of NA Zillion in the mid lane. I was really looking forward to that coming back. We already saw it. We got to see it this split. So I was like, now's the time to drop the game 5 Zill, you know? We didn't get to
I thought the adaptations were like one game too slow for Dignitas. So I actually thought that Dignitas would be able to like win this series just by like getting their laning phase to a level where they're just down like 1 to 2K and then grouping up and just doing North American things, right? Like they have people that know how to win in North America, where it's kind of just like versus the non-top teams. I think the top teams right now in LCS have actually gotten better, where you can't just roll over and like out macro them. You actually need to play the game, which is something that I like. Like I like watching like Cloud9 laning. I like watching how TL plays the game. Like I think these teams are actually legitimate. This is probably like the best top 2 teams we've had
In a long time.
in years going like, like, I mean, assuming they end up going internationally. Going internationally. So when I looked at this Dignitas team, like 100 Thieves, they've had the same problems. The macro doesn't, or the meta right now does not suit 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves, they don't want to be playing things like Lilia. Like, even though River is a really good jungler and he can play it, the way that this team functions is generally with River just playing things that can make plays. Everyone just like try to lane the best you can, like with pretty good laners top and mid, and then River's just gonna like connect all the dots. He's gonna do everything for the team. There was never like a Ayla River like duo like jungle rocking around. No, it's all River. River's gonna connect all the dots for the team. So I thought that like with this meta, if they can just make the games reasonable, there'll be some general sniper int TP. There'll be some horrible Ayla engage. Like, you can always count on Ayla to like make a game look fucking dirty for no reason. Like, Ayla will just, he has like the right ideas, but the execution is never there. You know who he is? If people don't watch too much competitive, but they know like streamers, he is like a competitive version of Nikic. If you know Nikic as a player, like, he has the right idea. He has like a 0 out of 10 mechanics. Like, actually just like you could find people that don't even have the ability to touch a keyboard that would have and a mouse that have better mechanics than Nikic. He is that equivalent of player where it's like, damn, you have the right, but you botched it so bad that it ended up being like horrible. Like, all you needed to do was like flash ult or something, and like the fight was over. But somehow you ended up fucking it up. Like, Ayla's the guy who every time you're watching him, you're just like, oh, like what the fuck was that? Whoa, calm down. Like, you'll see the hook go through then we 5 people. Like, he's Nautilus hook. It's impossible to miss. He'll throw it. It'll end up going through the whole team, like hit a wall. He'll just be past all of them, like Spider-Manning in. Instantly flash out. The whole team will be like, shit, do we fight it or not? Like, that shit looks really ugly. Do we fight it or not? He ults, they kind of fight it anyway. Just like, you have to accept that things are going to be engages when you watch Ayla play. And I thought that might be an angle, but Dignitas looked so fucking lifeless. Like, it was just so pathetic. And then the way that they adapted game to game, I thought was so off. Like, the reason I thought I tried to like do the math of like, okay, we're on a new patch. What is the patch going to mean? This is, if you don't know, this is the T1 patch. This is Riot just making it so T1 could be competitive again, because they knew that T1 was dog
Azir buffs when Azir definitely didn't need buffs.
Yeah,
very nice.
They're like, like, what do we need to do? Oh, let's buff Vi, Wukong, Azir, Orianna, and Syndra, and see if like maybe this helps the situation. It's like Faker's running down like every game playing like AD mids. People are posting Reddit threads. We need to save Faker. We need to save Faker. And then Riot's like, do not worry, Faker, we got you. Like, we'll help you.
Riot was like, we're not going to say anything about what happened in our studio, despite the fact that everybody saw it. Instead, we will solve the Faker problem that you guys saw by making him less frustrated with this patch.
That's actually GOAT behavior too. It's like everyone else is like trying to figure out how to like play the game. Like, Chovy's still sitting there like a nerd, like, maybe I could work in some Draven mid. And Faker's like, change the fucking game until I'm the GOAT again. Like, that is aura. That is fucking aura. And I respect that about Faker.
Or I'll take it out on this wall one more time.
Oh, hey, yo. I'm too scared to say that one. But
yeah.
Okay. Jesus. You know, dGon is getting fired after this episode. It is what it is.
Hold on. I gotta save my job.
We gotta like save dGon's job live.
All right, there we go. I'm saving my job. Job saved.
Okay, job is saved.
Job saved. Yeah.
Anyways, this is the T1 patch, and you know who else is an old kind of washed mid laner? Jensen. Just kidding. Faker's not washed. It was a joke. Just in case I
was like, I'm not a self-aware, Dom. Come on, man.
Jensen is old and kind of washed too.
I was willing to forgive, Jensen's kind of initial comeback because he had been out for a while, and I don't think / I know he hadn't really been practicing during his time off. And so he had a very limited champion pool. But the fact that we're still, it feels like, at this place where Jensen has never really recovered from that split off, he's never really come back into a reasonable champion pool, reasonable mechanics. It just feels really bad at this point in time.
Yeah, it feels really bad. I mean, even last split, there was definitely some weird feeling around him where it's like, I guess he's like farming well and he goes side lane, but it feels like he has not evolved past a certain point Whereas like now, the quality of the mid laners is way better in LCS than it was before. Like Quad is legit laner, Quid is a legit laner, JoJo's a legit laner, APA has become extremely legit. Like this guy actually fucking plays the game well now. So you have 4, like that's 4 out of 8. Like that's half the mid laners right there. And even if you think about like what the lower tier is, like Mask, Insanity, like these are not terrible players. Whereas before we had like Ica running it down. I mean, he might as well be the Ayla of, I don't know what it is with people that have 4-letter names, starts with E, ends with A, but these guys like just are fucking sprinters. And Ica was in there.
He's
he was
calling
just
out
doing
licorice, Eric. I heard that.
It was pathetic. It was pathetic what used to be going on in the mid lane. You would have some people that just were playing where it was like this guy just doesn't have it. You could tell, you could watch them, even if they're playing well, you could just tell they just didn't have it. Now even like the bad mid laners or like the people that are in that lower tier are competent. They're like they know what they're doing in mid lane, and if you play bad, they can't exploit it. So when Jensen is going in like versus these games, like these guys, he's just outclassed mechanically almost every single game. So the point I was gonna make about the meta was when I saw this patch come in, I'm like, okay, Jensen is going to just play Azir. He's just gonna play Azir and Orianna again, which are his champions. Like he'll just lock in Azir, Orianna, and like play to just scale through the lane, maybe be down 10 CS, maybe like an AD mid is picked by Quid, he's down 10 CS, then he'll start farming, they'll set up team fights, and they'll be able to like play the game together as a unit. Then you watch them play, and you're like, what the fuck? We're playing Zeri mid? Like, I didn't, like, Jensen does not want to be playing Zeri mid, right? You don't want Jensen on Zeri mid if you have Jensen on your team. You want Jensen just doing what he does later on in the game, team fighting well. You want a 30-minute team fight where he's even and he's got like 3 items on Orianna or Azir, and he could just play the game.
He's been in the side lane catching up from his laning phase. The trials of his laning phase.
100%. And then you just watch them playing. It's like Zeri mid into Smolder. He's getting solo killed at level 1 by a Smolder. Like it's actually to the point where it's just hard to watch.
Dude,
like
I laughed
can't
at that
see
so
him
hard.
get solo killed at level 1.
Not only was he like was Jensen like missing Q in that exchange, but even if he had hit Q, he still loses that. He still loses.
100%. I mean, the thing is, Smolder is actually strong early game now. That was the whole change that they did with Smolder. The whole reason Smolder came back is they made it so the stacks don't matter as much, and like the early game is much stronger. Like the 1 to 6 way stronger in terms of how people lane. So like it's not even a good opportunity to try to fight that. I mean, what you want to be doing in this type of lane, when I see other people play this lane, this is just me deducing what the idea is when you watch other people play this lane, is that you want Smolder to have to choose between like trading with you with Qs and CSing with Qs. And what you do is like if he tries to like trade with you, you just get the push on him because he doesn't have good wave clear until he has points in Q, and then he has obviously 25 stacks. Like he wants to hit these break points in order to be able to lane. And you have to just like play the wave. And it felt like Jensen just walked past the wave feeling like, oh, Smolder's weak level 1, I can fight him. It's like, no, he's not weak, especially if he's trading in the wave. We saw it even yesterday when Quad was playing against Palafox. They played a lane that was, I think it was Corky Smolder that they played. And it was, another situation where you could see the power of Smolder. Like Palafox didn't int it. He didn't go to that next level that Jensen did where he's like, I will like, there's a point where you're trading, you know, with these types of champs, and you get to like 40% life. And it's like, are you going to continue the trade and make it like mentally ill? Or are you just going to like accept that like you guys both ran out of gas and just like go recharge, you know, fucking wait until you have your spells back up and then send it again? No, he just took it past the point of mental illness and just decided to die at level 1. It is what it is. You're watching this game and it's like, why is he even playing Zeri? Like game 1 was enough for me to be like, okay, game 1, you play your AD mid laner. I'm fine with it for Jensen. Game 2, you play the Azir. He ran it down with Azir on game 3. Don't get me wrong. His Azir was fucking terrible, which is surprising for Jensen. Game 2 should have been the Azir game, and then game 3 it should be like an Orianna game. And if you get beat on all 3 stages, it's like, fuck, we just suck. Like that's what the progression of the series should have been. But instead, it's like they just did 2 games of an AD mid laner. It's like, okay, man, you're just asking to get shit on here.
Well, I mean, it was the meta, so maybe they were that far behind what the meta is. It is acceptable, but I don't know. It just feels like a Dignitas kind of like preparation thing.
The thing is, I don't even know if it is the meta. Like it might not be the meta.
I disagree in terms of, so most of the time when we actually see the Zeri mid, there's some level of like range or damage or poke on the team so that you can actually clean up fights with Zeri. right? And so my problem is like playing this with Zeri Callista feels super weird, because you are not going to have that same opportunity, and you're very low range, honestly, which was a problem because if they get ahead and you're playing into the Zaya and the Smolder and the Lilia who can all kite very effectively, how do you actually ever deal damage to them? And I think we saw that multiple times in this game. Like Spica was actually like unable or to press his ult on Brand a lot of the time because they just couldn't get any damage down. They couldn't get in range. Like, it was a super low range composition for the most part. And, especially because this was a Smolder that was hitting 225 stacks at 19 minutes into this game. You're just going to get hit by that Q all day. How are you ever going to pull off
I
the
mean,
engage on this composition?
I mean, the whole composition. You're talking if you're talking the Renekton. So people know the Renekton, Brand, Zeri, Callista, Renata composition. I mean, the reason you draft this is because you should have like giga winning lanes. Like they're playing
Yup.
Zyra
Sure.
Khan into
Sure.
Callista Renata. Like that should be like it should be very hard. Like if you saw T1 play this comp, you'd expect that like Keria and Guma are all up in like the enemy like fucking
And there's a
turret.
lane
They're
swap in this
chunking
game,
him.
right?
Yeah, and obviously there is a lane swap, but that's something that
You're not going to play into the Callista Renata.
of course. And that was something that Dig didn't play well. They didn't get enough of an advantage in the lane swap. They could have got more gold from the turret. Like, it's okay to get lane swapped on when you have an early game comp, as long as you do the lane swap in a way where your top laner and their top laner have even experience, and you just use the fact that your bot lane is generating more gold by hitting plates. You're fine to like be in a lane swap. It's not like the lane swap went on for 30 minutes in this, or for like 15 minutes, like we saw in some other games where there's just so much trading going on of the map that there's no interaction at all. There was a point where they actually were able to lane, but then they just botched the laning. They botched the dives. Like, it wasn't as clean as it should have been, and they just didn't get the lead they needed. I mean, I think game 2 from Dig is them just saying like, hey, like early game, like, okay, we need to get some firepower because we can't just like scale. They're beating us in terms of their composition, like the early game composition that 100 Thieves had the game before. That was like a Renekton, Viego, Nautilus composition. They got beat by that. They're like, we need to match their early game in order to win the series. We're getting run over. And then they played this, and they're just not good enough to even with an early game advantage, they're not able to win early game because you have things going on like Smolder solo killing Zeri in the mid lane. So game 2 comes in from Dignitas. They still don't have the ability to outlane or like even get through an early game. And then game 3, it's just like, I don't fucking know what they even did game 3. Game 3, it's just like they almost resigned themselves to just being like, we are just fucking shit. Like, just get like the more games we play in the series, we're going to lose anyway. The more games we play in the series, the more value we lose as players. So just get it over quickly so people can forget what happened here today. That was the mentality in game number 3.
I just think it's shocking because at the start of this year, right? Like Dignitas putting together this particular roster, they had at least, I would say, a moderately strong beginning to the spring split, and it looked at least somewhat promising. Like, you would expect this team to potentially be a top 4 team in this league. 100 Thieves kind of snuck into that second position and pushed them to number 5 in spring, but like, you can't do this badly with this level of roster if you're coming into this summer split and making these changes. If you're adding Jensen, if you're changing it up for Spica, right?
They have 5
Sven
weak
as
side
well.
players. They literally have 5 weak side players. That's the problem with teams like this. This is just North American. This is a problem that I've seen with roster creation like multiple times now. The first time I ever saw this problem that I was like really like adamant about was 2020 LCS when Immortals was in the league. So if you remember what this Immortals roster was, this is when they brought over Soaz from Europe. They had Soaz,
Right.
who was
Xmithy.
known at that point as a tank player. Xmithy, who was another tank player. Like, he was somebody who was always doing the dirty work on Team Liquid, right? Like, he was the guy picking Skarner, picking Sejuani, Gragas at the time, jungle, and just like fixing lanes, like supporting people. Like, that was who he was. Ica, who was just like, he's just talentless. And like, just say what it is. He just doesn't have talent. Like, there's some players that have talent. There's some players that don't have talent. Somebody like Quad, you can see the talent. Somebody like Quid, you can see the talent. Somebody like APA has talent. Jojo has talent. Like, these guys like have like the innate ability to just play League at an extremely high level. When you watch them, like, even when you watched APA when he was not good, you could see that he would like even when
He
he
was going
didn't
for
have
shit.
all the other
He was
things,
going
like,
for
he would just
shit.
like 1v1 a guy
Yeah.
every now and then and be like, oh, that's kind of high. Okay, I can see what you were going for there. Like, he just had that innate ability that some other players just don't have. Some players are just talentless, bro. Like, it is what it is. I don't know what to say. Like, it sounds mean. Just has no talent. Like I don't know what to say. Like he just doesn't have it. Ica,
Some people just pass the eye test, is what you're saying.
sure, yeah, that's a nicer way to say it than calling them talentless, I guess. But anyways, Ica had no talent. Altec was like a weak side AD carry at that point. And then they had like Hakuho, so then it became like Apollo Hakuho, which were like a weak side bot lane. You have 5 weak side players on the team. Like no one is gaining an advantage. And I feel like Spica is maybe the one player on fly on this version of Dignitas when he was on fly. He had some ability to like he could get ahead, but you have to like it's not perfect. He's not like a strong carry jungler. It's just, like he needs something to play around. He could potentially be the one to bring it through, but you need to surround him with some lane that's actually winning. I mean, Licorice has now lost Renekton into Cassante twice. In 2 weeks, he's lost Renekton into Cassante twice. If you're picking Renekton and the other guy picks Cassante and you lose that lane, if you're getting solo killed in that lane, it's over. Like there's no like it's just fucking over. There's nothing else to say. Like you picked that champion to have pressure throughout the game. You want to have, if you watch, I mean, you've literally seen people play these types of matchups like I think it was Gragas and LPL, but when you see Bin play Renekton into Cassante or play Renekton into Gragas, it is like he has got a 30 CS lead, plates, he's always ahead, like 1.7k going into mid game, like around 19, 20 minutes. I would bet that around 19 to 20 minutes, Bin has about a 1.5 to 1.7k gold lead on average when playing Renekton versus a tank champion. And he'll use that to be on his Sterax. When you're on 1.5 items, he's on Sterax Cleaver. Then he comes into a team fight and he's unkillable because at that point, enemy AD carry is sitting on 1.5 items, 2 items, can never kill. Like you need 3 items, 4 items to be able to kill a Renekton that is level 13, 14, has that many base stats, has all the health on top, has all the effective health with his Q, with his ult. That guy just becomes unkillable with such a presence in the game. Renekton for Licorice doesn't look anything like that. It's like he's losing the 1v1. He's weaker on side lane. He comes into a team fight, he's just tanking less damage than the Cassante. Like he's actually just weaker than the Cassante in these early to mid game team fights. So you can't fucking play the game. Jensen is getting solo killed as Zeri into Smolder in these fucking games. They have Kalista Renata. I mean, Sven and Isles just play the Kalista Renata. They just seem really out of sync. I mean, Kalista tried to walk back to lane after a Drake in like a horrible way. He gets caught. Then Isles wants to save Flash. He's like, "Yo, Sven, come ult me." And Sven's like,
around that Drake, which was so wild because like they absolutely could have just all gone one direction and nobody dies, and instead they constantly split and get outflanked.
Well, I mean, like the thing is, they did the Drake at a time where Sven was gonna actually end up having to drop a bot wave because they weren't even as ahead as they really want to be. Because at that point, the enemy team should be like afraid to go anywhere near you. That point, the enemy team should be thinking, hey, they're getting this Drake for free. We need to cross map. We need to do something else like on the map in order to try to get back into this game. But they're actually able to kind of tether. They're able to sit around there, like fake pressure it. There's a difference between cinema gaming where you sit and you watch them take the objective and like being able to actually stall them where you're looking at them, but you're looking at them and you're like angrily jerking off, right? You're angrily jerking, and then when they make a mistake, you just come on them, right? And then that's what happened. Is Sven made a mistake, and they just fucking pulled the trigger, and they snapped, and it was just over. And like he loses his sums, that's already a win. If you get the Kalista sums and him half life out of that Drake, nice. Now he has to take a horrible base. You've already won the situation to some degree, but then it became a massive advantage because then Isles is like, "Yo, we have Kalista ult. Like, do I need to flash here?" And then Sven tries to walk around to Kalista ult him. Then the Kalista has no flash, obviously, just burned his flash. They just snap on him. They kill him. Then Isles, instead of taking the Kalista ult out, he takes it in because he's trying to save Sven because he feels like he killed him because he made him come there to Kalista ult. And the whole game is fucking lost. And then you just lose super hard for the rest of it. And at like 20 minutes, Smolder is 225 stacks and 6 kills and just completely 1v9ing the game. These game states for Dignitas are so bad, and it comes from the fact that they just don't have enough like new talent on their roster. They don't have 20, like if they had 2015 OG Niels instead of 2024 returning to AD carry Sven, maybe they would have that to play around. It's like, oh, this kid is cracked, played a bunch of, solo queue. He's really high rated. He has that ability to squeeze. Like he has that innate ability. Even a player like Masu, for example, we watch Masu play. You can see that he has that new blood. He has those new hands. He's ready to fucking compete in lanes. Like he's got the ability to, just squeeze out situations. When you watch his Ezreal, he'll over leverage his position, knowing he has his E, dodge a skill shot, hit a Q. Like somebody will throw another one at him. He'll shift forward. It's like, okay, this guy, like, he knows his limits. He's just ready to show how good he is at the game. It just, you have 5 weak side players on Dig. You have nobody who can actually do this. So you just don't end up having big enough advantages because no one's ever really ahead.
Jesus. Dom, I don't think I've had, out of any show that we've done, that long of a strong rant with that wild of analogy.
The rage wank.
Well, you've done rage wank before, but you've never gone into specifics of the different phases of the rage wank and have it make enough sense of game 2 of Dignitas.
If you take my commentary and you put it over that second dragon situation in game number 2, you'll be able to, like, even if you don't agree with the terms being used, you'll see what I'm talking about. Like, it will match up. So
yeah, we got
keep the rage wank in mind, bro.
Just throwing this one out here to you. It was both sides of the matchup for Licorice, right? I went back to look at game number 1 when he was the Cassante and Sniper was the Renekton. Renekton's, multiple CS up at the first fight. They come and they use that lead, which, Licorice lost both sides of it, which is difficult and annoying. And I'm sure he knows, like, there was lack of pressure, jungle, blah, blah, blah. Because when I talked to Licorice, he is very knowledgeable on that front, but that is a bummer to see him lose both sides of that matchup. Opposite side, because I'm Mr. Positive, it's great for fucking Filthy Frank to come back and go 9-0 and I think 24. Tomo getting revenge on the team that replaced him with Sven, and we're talking about lack of firepower here. Tomo is one of those players that can sit back and punish, but not necessarily the one to make them the mistake. But that shows that 100 Thieves have enough firepower to make Dignitas make the mistake. They won't make the mistake themselves here in this first series. All right, Monty, what did you think of this series and a couple of the counterpoints here to Dom?
No, I interspersed some of my points in there, and I don't think we need to belabor this because we also need to talk about energy. But I mean, basically, with the veterancy of this team and the reason why it was assembled within summer was to have a better effect than the team did in the spring split. And when you replace almost every player on this roster and you replace it with some legendary names, and presumably you are paying a premium for some of these names, you certainly expect better than a performance because 100 Thieves hasn't even been good. They haven't even been good this split. I mean, that's the other thing is that their macro has been in shambles. Dom alluded to this before, but Sniper has had probably the overall worst TP usage of any top laner within this league, where he frequently just isn't there at fights or TP's a mile away from a fight, shows up late after his team has already lost 5v4. In spite of his good laning phase, a lot of the time, his awareness and his coordination with his team has been lacking. And so, especially because, look, I'm not going to say Meech was good, but even so, you're replacing, him this late into the season. And then on top of that, to Dom's point about Ayla, who has been atrocious, really, you're going to lose in a you're going to lose to a strategy where the strategy is to farm Ayla, like with a Senna. What the fuck? How could you lose to that? That's not allowed, right? I was shocked when they went into game 3. I'm like, really? You're gonna give Ayla money? I mean, in general on his contract, but also in the game. Like, why would you do either?
Yeah, nah, I feel
it. I was just really surprised. But honestly, like River and Quid did, I think, have a very good series. Sniper didn't have any of the mistakes, but Dignitas just looked flaccid and lifeless, right? And this certainly isn't what Dignitas paid for. And clearly, that's when you're
rage wank because I can't get it up. Holy fuck! That's too messed up. Actually, holy fucking Jesus.
They're done, man. They're done. Like, where do these players go? Like, we were all upset given Licorice's performance last year that he wasn't in the spring split because of all the shenanigans with the teams that were leaving. And Dignitas, I would say, if I had to guess whether they want to be out of LCS at the end of this year, my answer is no, because otherwise, why would they put this roster together for summer? Like, they were clearly trying. But this
just bad roster creation. Look,
there's also just no spark to this team. Like, it just doesn't feel like any of them give a shit.
Yeah,
like they had some fun interviews at the start of the split, but like,
they just don't look. this is so I think it used to be different. I think it used to be that you could like have like 4 veterans on a team with one like young player, and that would be enough to get you over the line. Like you take one mechanically like super beast player from solo queue and you just surround him with enough veterancy that he's able to really shine. I think the times have changed in the league. It's now like you have max like 2 good veterans on a team. You need like 2 veterans. I mean, it depends on the type of veterans. Like when I'm talking about this, I mean like the players that look like they've fallen off mechanically but still have a brain, and they're like able to play. So I'm thinking about people like Wonder, Yankos, like people that still look like they're smart enough to compete. They just don't have the mechanical ability that they used to have. Like I'm not talking about veterans like Caps, because people will always be like, but Caps is a veteran and he's still really good. It's like, yes, he's like the best player in the fucking West. We're not talking about players like that.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like players that just have lost a step, but they're still good enough to play in LEC for sure, right? Like they're good enough to compete. Good, same thing for LCS. LEC, LCS, you're good enough to compete. You have 2 of these guys, and then you have to surround it with like 3 rookies. I feel like the Fly situation is indicative of that. Every now and then, you know, like Bubba will run it down, like he'll do some bullshit. It is what it is. He'll fucking pull out a Volibear and sprint you down one game. There's nothing you could do about it. You just have to accept the loss there. But like for the most part, like he'll probably give your guys some direction. He's somebody who is probably, I would guess, has made Bubba and Masu or Busio and Masu better over the course of the year. Just with like being able to talk about them, talk about the game with them. So I think it's like 2 veterans with 3 like rookies that have some promise. That's kind of the formula. Maybe you can get away with 3 veterans, but you can't just put 4 or 5 veterans on a team that have all lost a step and expect the team to perform. Like it's just not going to be able. Like you just don't have the firepower to compete with these better teams in LCS right now.
Well, I think that's time for a perfect transition to NRG, which they are vets. They are vets. I love them dearly. This is my favorite team. I was looking at the video I had of contracts at Worlds where it was like, hey, look, there's contracts on the big screen, pan over, and then there's contracts in the crowd. It's just great memories of how good this squad was and what they achieved. They are clearly not that team anymore.
I think that achievement destroyed them, dGon. I think that they realized that they are just never going to get there again, and they have lost all motivation because they don't even look like they want to play League of Legends together, if I'm being honest. And dGon, I refuse to believe that Ignar was the fucking magic glue that was holding this team together. Surely that can't be the truth, right?
The meta was magic glue. The fact that you can play, the fact that you can play like Ari, Nico
along the way.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like it's just a lot of teams are just meta merchants. They had one good period. They didn't even have a good split, by the way. Like people are overrated. They had a good playoffs into Worlds. They had like a few good patches they were good on. And if you think about the rest of this NRG/CLG lineup, the core of them, they were generally like a mid to like middle bottom tier team for the rest of the time they've been together. Like it was just one moment in one split that actually clicked for them, and outside of that, it's just been very average, very mediocre from this team. So I don't think that it's a huge thing where it's like what happened to NRG now, what happened to the fall off. When I think about the team, it's more what happened when they were actually good, because that is the thing that was actually surprising. And people have this idea that that was the outlier. When you look at the rest of it, this has been the norm. This has been the level of the CLG NRG team. I mean, obviously there used to be 10 teams in the league, so throw 2 more teams that would make you look slightly better. Maybe they would just look like a 6th place team, 5th place team. Like they're probably a 5th place team. They're probably going to beat Dig, I guess, because Dig is just so lifeless. They look like that. It's just that when there's more teams, it doesn't feel as doomed. Instead of being 5th out of 8 teams, being 5th out of 10 teams, like, oh, I mean, they're all right. Like they don't have the ability to beat anyone better than them. These games are very old CLG. Very old CLG, old beginning of their time on NRG. These throws are nothing crazy for a team like this. So when I look at the team, it's just that has been the standard that they have set. It's like they are kind of mid players. I would say Contracts has looked probably the best out of like the veterans on this team.
He played all right in this series, I thought.
He did play all right, and it's just it feels like Palafox just can't get it over the line with these AD carries. It just doesn't seem like Corki, Tristana, like when he plays, he doesn't have that threat. Lucian, he doesn't have that threat. It just doesn't feel like he has that presence in games. You never feel like he's going to be able to carry fights. He's kind of somebody who sees angles pretty well, which is why I think he does well with Nico, Ari. But when he has to just be like consistent DPS, he doesn't have the ability to like snap and make a play in a fight. He's got to just let the fight come to him. Feels like he always makes a crucial mistake. He seems like one of the easiest mid laners to kill when he's on like Corki or Tristana or Lucian or one of these picks. For some reason, it's just so super easy to kill him.
Well, he's
I think
like
Gokla's
flanking
also
a lot of the time with the pick too, even when he's ahead. Like he's ahead and then he's flanks and he gets caught out by a lot of CC. It's his positioning is weird a lot of the time.
yeah, his positioning is not the best. So it is what it is, man. It is what it is. This team just doesn't have it in this meta specifically, and I think Huhi has been pretty bad for the majority of the year. The fights that Huhi engages for the most part are just like pretty ugly. It wasn't that bad in this series. I would say it was better in the series than average. But if you look at the entire year that Huhi's been playing, so many times you just watch him start a fight and you can tell the rest of his teammates are, like don't want to be fighting, or they're not ready to be fighting, or it doesn't make sense that they're fighting, and they all just follow him up, and then it's just a catastrophe. It's always like 4 or 5 deaths out of nowhere.
It looks like there is an angle. It just looks like they're not coordinated. Like who he's engages are like he's hitting the guy, or rarely is it like Ayla's, where Ayla like misses, but we're going in because that's what it is. It's like, all right, I'm going, and the guy's like, oh, okay, I guess we're going. It never felt like this team has got together, and now they're on their last opportunity to do it and have a good opponent to do it against in Dignitas. But
well, but
they could be
the
decisive
thing, like,
if they were all lockstep, and they're just not right now.
But I mean, that's why this roster just needs to be blown up, because if you look at their opponents in this series, I think one of the most striking aspects of this series was like the quad Masu synergy, right? If you look at the way that Masu's engaging with his arrows and quad is instantly following up, Masu is a fucking rookie. This is quad's first split, and he doesn't even speak English. Like, if they can do that in this playoff series, what the fuck is wrong with NRG? How many years do they need to play League of Legends and LCS? How many years do they need to play together? Right?
I mean, it's because that's something that people just have overrated over time. Like that years doesn't make you that good of a player.
Well,
like
that's what I'm saying. That's why you need to blow it up, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like the years will never actually be anything. Like I think for the longest time we had this issue because it felt like you'd have this situation in LCS where you'd have these rookies or you'd have these teams that would come in and they would look really strong. They'd crumble in playoffs to these veterans, and it made veterans look stronger than they are. I just feel like you just need to have players, like you just need to supplement those rookies with like a little bit of veterancy, somebody who just knows how to win games, and Inspired is somebody who knows how to win games. He can be like, yo, this is what we got to do to win. Just something that simple. Like, hey, we just have to play the fight like this. We go front to back. Like we go front to back, you engage first. I'll follow it up.
I did love the comms in this series where in the last game, he's like, Alan, you got to go in first. Alan's Busio on the Leona.
Yeah.
I mean,
but that's just what it is.
He's not wrong. It's just funny.
People hate shit like that. I knew instantly when that happened. I'm like, by the way, like, I'm kind of an Inspired defender at this point because I feel like
he's good.
He's good and he's overhated because he is just extremely blunt. But that is something that you want in a team, by the way. You want somebody to just say what the fuck it is in game. You don't want somebody to be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have went in. It's like, no. What needs to happen in the next fight? Alan, you just have to go first, bro. Like, I'm super fucking strong on Lilia. You are playing bullshit engage, like you were playing just bullshit engage, just go suicide so that I can win the fight. Like I need you to like go in because so I can play the fight better. You actually need that in game, but people hate that type of stuff because it comes off as like toxic, or the way that people view it.
I thought it was fine. I thought it was funny.
The way people view it is like you're blaming somebody in solo queue. That's the lens that they view it. It's like, bro, you just ran it down. Why are you blaming the support? Like they view it through this type of like lens where it's like, I mean, even Inspired did have to run it down because Leona didn't walk in first. Like Leona just needs to waddle into the fight and suicide, just Ayla style, bro. Just get in there and just die so that everyone else can fight. Sometimes you need to just run it down and support. Like that is actually how it works. If you watch top level pro games, when teams group up like that, it's always just like the support going in first. It's like, okay, everyone's ready to follow up. Like, how do we want our formation to be? Like, don't clump up because they're going to be engaging. We need to get vision. Send the fucking first guy in, bro. Send that first line, bro. Send in the meat field. Yes, bro. Yes, it's old school, man.
The aftershock troop in Leona's case, right?
Yes, the aftershock troop. You just send him in, and it's
But
like, just be ready to fucking fight. Like normally the way these teams retake vision in this meta is you have that tanky guy walk in and they know which bush they're about to die when they go in. And it's like as they die, they're just like holding like, you know, instead of like a flag, it's just like a pink ward. And they're just like, yeah, they just like put the pink ward into the fucking bush. And it's like, now we can see them and I'm dead. Hopefully you guys can win the fight. And that's normally good enough. You know, everyone else is like, all right, we can see them. Cool. Now we're able to fight. That's what you need to do in that situation. And like, if you just have the talented players that are able to like play the game out, the only place where rookies start to really falter is the mid to late game. That's the hardest part to learn because in solo queue you just don't have mid to late games that make much sense where people are playing on the edge. And in scrims, a lot of times you don't get to that mid to late game often enough. So the veterancy really helps. The veterancy helps when you get to those stages of the game that people don't have a lot of experience in. But like first 15, 20 minutes, most people are completely good with that from just playing a lot of solo queue and just being individually good at the game. They understand like, oh shit, like fucking like this arrow is coming in. Okay, I have to play like this. Like they know how to do that because that's what they have so many reps of doing.
I think when you bring up that anecdote with Inspired and Busio, and we got to hear that, like, don't both Dignitas and NRG have the guys that call the game that way? Like, Huhi is that person. He's always been that person. And whenever you listen to comms with NRG, Contracts is usually facilitating the early game. Same thing with Dignitas. Spica and Sven are those dudes. They can call the game for you. And then
the problem is that if you're losing the early game with some of their compositions, there's not really a way to come back for Dignitas. Like, yeah, you can't. You just like when Smolder has 125 or you know, when he has 225 stacks, and you have Callista and Zera, you can't do anything.
Sure. Well, then what about the NRG?
It's a problem with their drafting.
With the
NRG, like, I mean, the NRG team is it's more that number one, Huhi is way less accurate in terms of like his decisions because you can see in game. I don't need voice comms to see who's making decisions. I can see Huhi walking around and just getting caught and people following up on his int essentially frequently with NRG. You can go throughout the entire season. You can see so many of these moments. When you watch these moments, it's very obvious to me that he has way less accuracy in terms of like being able to predict how fights are going to be or like what fights are actually good and which ones aren't or when they should actually be looking for engages or when they should be sacking things and playing the other side of the map. His accuracy in determining these things early game is just terrible. So they end up behind a lot. But even when NRG is like ahead, there's a lot of just desperation in the plays that they make. For example, this game 4, the final game of the series versus FlyQuest. They get Drake at like 20 minutes, and then Palafox goes bot, and he Valks to the wave instead of saving his Valkyrie and just like walking to the wave and just nuking the wave and then being willing to dip. He Valks to the wave, and enemy teams like Inspired and Busio see this. They just beeline at him. They flash on him, kill him. He burns his flash. And because he died bot and they have like 4 people bot, NRG feels like they have to make a play other places on the map. They're like, shit, they sent 4 people bot at 20 minutes. We need to do something. But there was no setup for this. It wasn't like they were laning and this happened. They had just got Drake and on their way back mid lane, Palafox inted. Palafox made a mistake. But they feel so desperate that they need to do something immediately that they walk up mid. They try to hit mid tier 2 turret, which isn't going to do anything there. They're not going to get the turret. By the time that they're even hitting the mid tier 2, Busio and Inspired are able to walk back up the river towards mid, and then they end up in a fight where it's like a 4v5 and they end up dying and losing the game where FBI misplays, he gets engaged on, and then they lose so much pressure in this game. Where if you think about what their team comp is in this game, they have Rumble, they have Rel, they have MF. That is your team comp, right? Like Ivor and Corki, they supplement it. Corki does damage, Ivor does shielding, whatever. That supplements the team comp. But what is the team comp? It is a team fight wombo comp with Rel, Rumble, MF, where you are just going Rel engage, drop your fucking MF and Rumble ult on top. That's it. Like that's the fight right there. That's how we're trying to win. And they don't get that in any reasonable point for the rest of the game. Like they just aren't able to get themselves in a situation because they're just responding to random stuff that's happening instead of just being like, all right, how are we going to play this? We're playing through Drakes. We're going to get like these Drakes. We're going to get these objectives, or we're going to like trap around Baron and somebody's going to walk in. We're going to snap on them with all this engage, kill the Lilia, whatever, kill whoever, walks in. And we just win the game because we've hit you with our wombo comp, get the objectives, and then just snowball the game like that. They never get it. They never get their combo because they're playing so desperate. They're just looking for they're looking to make plays or like capitalize off mistakes, or like they're trying to even out things or play the map off people that are making mistakes, as opposed to just playing the game normally and accepting like, hey, just because Palafox made a mistake bot doesn't mean that we need to end now. Like, that's good enough. Like, he dies, okay, cool, we lose a tier 1. Maybe instead of being 5k up, we're going to be up 3k because he died, he loses a couple waves at tier 1, whatever. They just make such desperate plays, and every time that there's a mistake, it ends up being huge. Also, the coordination between these teams, like, they're on way different pages.
Yeah.
Something that I'm not sure if I don't think the cast called this out. I don't think people noticed this. But do you remember the bot fight where Palafox got killed? The bot fight where Palafox just gets caught on Corki. It's after they get Baron in this game. NRG gets Baron. One person gets it. Like Ivern solo gets Baron because he misses shield, whatever. Then they go bot. They're trying to siege bot.
Yeah.
So they're bot. They're trying to siege bot. And the mentality from Dokla is he's like, shit, like, are you guys... He thinks that it's like going to end up being like a base race or something, or they're going to go harder on bot. So Dokla ults, he rumble ults the mid wave while his whole team is bot lane. And then they end up in a committed fight, and he TPs in, and he doesn't have rumble ult because he just rumble ulted the mid wave. And then they end up losing that fight, and that's a fight that you should be winning because the enemy team has no flashes there. So it's like, that is the fight you should be winning.
I mean, it was a bad call too, and like a bad execution on the exit, because that was when they were in bot lane and they didn't respect the engage, and Palafox actually just doesn't use Valk. So normally what you see pro teams do is like when you're disengaging from a base turret siege and you're like actually leaving, you Valk out early. You Valk out down the lane, but he actually just gets autoed by Bwipo and then caught by a Jin W from Masu at that point in time because he was close enough and then he, you know, basically uses his Valk too late and dies, and they find themselves in a 5v4. But that engage should never have happened.
I mean,
it shouldn't
also
happen onto Palafox.
There's what like I would have to go back into the replay and see if Contracts actually had his Mykles up there, but it was very clear that the Palafox was playing as if he was going to get a Mykles on the first CC. Like, he was trying to like use his positioning to bait them in, where he's going to walk up, they hit something, as soon as they step up to overcommit, he gets Mykles, Valk's back, and then they start turning that into a fight, which I don't think is the right thing to do because your Rumble has no ult there. So he's playing it as if they're way stronger, and he's trying to like leverage his positioning to bait. I would have to go back to see if that was Contracts' fault, but that just shows a lack of synergy, because if they don't have Mykles, then Palafox shouldn't be playing it like that. And also, if they do have Mykles, then Contracts needs to be faster on Mykles. Maybe it's Contracts' fault that Palafox ends up dying there. But also, like, the thing that I cared about, the reason why I brought it up is, like, we end up having our fights. If you look at the last fights of the game, right, that fight in bot lane, and then the fight where, like, Palafox just Valks in mid and they just all die, they didn't get any type of, like, Rel going first, combo with Rumble ult, MF ult. Like, they didn't get anything in the last two fights. Like, they weren't even on the same screens playing with all their conditions up together. Obviously, it doesn't always have to be Rel first into, you know, Rumble ult into MF ult. Sometimes, like, the fight starts, Rel goes in, like, he gets some summoners, then he's like walking back, then enemy team overcommits, then you hit them with MF ult. It doesn't have to be like perfect like that. But they didn't have all their tools and all their champions on the same screen in the last two fights with a 5v5 comp.
Yeah, it's been a little tough to watch, I think, with NRG just not executing this comp, and then you guys been able to call out how it's supposed to work, how it's supposed to happen here, and it just hasn't come together yet. And so they're not done. Neither are Dig. Both these squads still have their opportunity against each other to continue in the LCS Championship, but
The washed up
not looking good.
losers bracket match.
That's gonna be a horror, bro. That's gonna be a terrible series.
Well, that's your match on Saturday. The next match that LCS is broadcasting here, Dignitas and NRG in the lower side of the bracket.
It's not Friday, or maybe Saturday for you.
Oh, sorry, Friday. Yeah, it's Saturday for me. Friday for our
everyone else.
Yeah, it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday in NA. Yep.
Yeah, my bad. There we go. Boom. I hit the right button now. Okay, Friday for everyone else. Okay, well, that was an in-depth, very clear. Everything is on fire for both Dignitas and NRG as they are both one loss away.
Blow them up. You know what, dGon? If you're an LCS fan, the upside to this is there are only going to be 6 LCS teams next split. So when they delete two
It's not an
rosters,
upside.
hopefully there'll still be enough players to fill 6 teams. So it'll be okay.
That's not an upside, Monty. That makes me sad. I really like this team. Again, I've already touched on it. I really like this team when things are humming, and it's difficult when things aren't. I went back to look at the replay, Dom. I'm pretty sure it's exactly what you said. It looked like, because he has both QSS and contracts has Mykles, and it looked like it was one
Oh,
of
he
those
has a
situations.
QSS there too. Okay, then it's 100% on him. Then fuck him.
It
What
looked like he was
happened
waiting
was-
for the
Mykles?
first one.
I think he was waiting for Leona ult because it went Gen.W chained into Leona ult, but in the meantime, Corki lost like 2/3 of his health bar. While that was
I
going
mean,
on.
but I mean, like you have to use one of them on the first one. Like that's crazy that there's actually 2 ways that he can cleanse the CC there, and they do neither. Like that is really fucking bad.
Yeah, it was the Jin W into the Leona ults, and he QSS'd a little early, and so he got hit by the Leona ult and then needed the Mykles, I think. That's what it looks like. So,
Jesus.
which wasn't the only QSS that he missed that game on Corki, or that series on Corki. Just tough series for Palafox, and one opportunity to bounce back here. Well, yeah, that was everything is on fire for Dignitas and NRG. Hopefully you guys at home liked our LCS segment here on these 2 squads. Now, before we get to our next segment, it's time for us to remind you about one of the partners that helps everything work here over at Last Free Nation and on Power Spike. It's our friends over at Factor. As summer is starting to call, fuel up with them with Factor, with no prep, no mess meals, with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time for nutritious, great tasting meals to help you achieve some of those fitness goals. And with 35 different meals and more than over 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll never get bored with new flavors to explore. So crush those wellness goals this summer with dietitian approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. Obviously, Dom, you've been enjoying these for such a long time.
Yep.
Did you get your most recent package?
I get them on Tuesday, every Tuesday. So
All
I'm
right.
like towards the end of my last. I'm actually almost done with them because I've been eating them a lot this week. So I got to figure out food for the next couple days, unfortunately.
Again, you can have yourself restaurant quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon, and it keeps time in the kitchen to a minimum so that you have more time on your hands to be able to do the other things that you want to do. So, for our friends that are looking for an offer to get on into it, head on over to factormeals.com/powerspike50. There we go. That's what it is. Man, I could see the Monty's giving me a look. It's factormeals.com/powerspike50 for 50% off your first box plus 20% off the next month. That's powerspike50 at factormeals.com/powerspike50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off the next month while your subscription's active. Thanks to our friends over at Factor for making that happen. All right.
I tried the filet mignon one recently. I got the filet because
How was
that's
that?
like one where you have to select it. It was pretty good. It was pretty good. It was way better than I thought it would be. I thought the steak might be like tougher, like a little bit dry or something because I mean obviously it has to come packaged. But it was better than I thought it would be. It was well cooked. So I might start adding that into my Factor rotation right now.
Dang. The filet mignon. What is your favorite one?
My favorite one is the chicken thighs and like wild rice. It's like mushroom chicken thighs and wild rice. It's really fucking good. It's like so what it is just like it's just chicken, rice, and mushrooms with like a cream sauce. And that one just hits for me like every time. Sometimes I just get like 4 of them. Those a stream, I think like 2 weeks ago. Where that's just all I ate that day. I think I just had 2 meals. Two of the same meal of just that. And that was just my like I'm like, that's kind of what I want to be eating because I feel like a lot of times when I'm on stream for a long time, I don't want to ever feel like that like sickness that you get like when I eat like a lot of pasta. Like, I'm somebody who's lactose intolerant, but if I eat a lot of carbs and stuff, I just don't feel great. But if I eat chicken, rice, vegetables, just keep it simple like that, it's like the perfect meal for me to actually continue feeling like even the entire time. And yeah, I just did that for a full stream. I did like a 14-hour stream with double chicken thighs, wild rice, and mushrooms, and it was good. And I'm not somebody who really likes mushrooms. I'm not one of those people that just like prefers that. It's just that's what ended up being my favorite ones. There's also like just fusilli with tomato ragu, so it's just like meat sauce and pasta. That's one that I get a couple of all the time. So that's like a meal that I enjoy eating. Just put some Parmesan on the top, and I'm good to go with that. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot. There's like a Parmesan chicken sun-dried tomatoes one that's pretty good. I'd recommend all three of those. Get doubled up on those ones, and then you can see afterwards.
Boom. Well, thanks to our friends over at Factor for making that one happen. The code again is PowerSpike50 to get yourself 50% off your first box and then 20% off while your subscription is active. Boom. All right. Let's get to it. All right. Our next segment here, after we've burned down the bottom of the West, let's move to the top of the East. We got a tough decision to make as both these squads still in their playoffs. One of them has playoffs happening. The other one just got to playoffs. We've got keep or kick. Are we keeping Gen.G or BLG? What are we doing here between our two experts? Let's find out together as we get into this week's keep or kick. All right, so BLG, obviously, sitting in the thick of playoffs for the LPL, hasn't had to do too much, whereas Gen.G, they just reached it, even though they've been locked into playoffs for a long time now and recently locked in the second round of playoffs, trying to achieve that undefeated record in the LCK and fell short because of KT. Fucking freaking Kelty. Yeah, KT. We're talking about this because this is very likely the two best teams in the world. Probably I'd throw in a couple more LPL teams in there because it's very clearly
What?
Gen.G.
You're not a believer in Hanwha Life esports?
No, I am not. I am not. Gen.G
Really?
has been like Gen.G has been playing with their food, man. Like it kind of feels almost like G2-esque of how much better they've been than everyone else, to the point where it feels like a run, but not a sprint. You know, a labored jog. That's what it's felt like for Gen.G. They haven't been challenged in a very long time, including even in that series against KT. It just felt unorthodox, but not like, wow, KT, they came in, they just crushed them. Like, it just felt like an off day for Gen.G compared to, wow, Gen.G looked out of sorts and maybe they aren't the best team in the world. It just, in their wins, it looks so comfortable and so controlled. Even when we were talking about voting for All Pro and MVP, we're like, this team's just so damn good. MVP, you know, you can think about other players that are more valuable to their team. Maybe you give it a Chovy because it allows everyone else to do everything. Maybe you give it a Canyon because everything is facilitated through him. Maybe you give it a Pays because he's been so damn dominant dealing damage. But then you're like, anyone could look good if you stick in another top 4 AD carry at that role compared to the rest of the team.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know. That was for you, Monty. But BLG, on the other hand, they look so fucking good. They look so dominant. I don't know. It just feels like when I watch their VODs, it feels.
The thing. Look, they're coming off a really strong series, right? But I don't think we can just hand wave away that they did lose quite a few individual games and probably played like a lot of unnecessary 3-game series within the regular part of the summer split. You know, so they usually like tightened it up in game number 3, but did they have to be in so many game number 3s? Perhaps not. But at least the encouraging signs is like they looked very strong in their initial series. And like I think it's good to see Knight coming online on some of these AD carry champs because he has had a kind of rocky time compared to his normal performance. And obviously we're comparing him to, you know, being one of the top mid laners in the world. And then Bin also, you know, was an MVP candidate for the summer split, as we discussed on previous shows. So, I mean, look, I think Billy is good. And yes, we've had some Canyon Int games. He was terrible in that KT matchup. But is this Gen.G team going to not win LCK? It seems extremely far-fetched. Even if we are moving into a T1 meta, I think maybe it makes it slightly more competitive, but Gen.G I think is in a class of their own right now.
Yeah. You think globally they're just insane, better than everyone?
I don't think they're insane better than everyone, but I think in Korea they're definitely a cut above. And I want to see how the rest of the LPL playoffs play out because like obviously it definitely was much more of a statement game, and I'm wondering how much of BLG's performance previously was them just like happy gaming, you know what I mean? Because I mean the way switch up I think has obviously helped them quite a bit as well, and like Knight's
Well,
improving performance. But I also know that LPL teams like they do just enough to win during the regular season a lot of the time, but they're not quite as locked in. And then when it gets to playoff time, they lock in big time.
I mean, I think there was a huge stylistic shift between how BLG played in spring to how they're playing now in summer. Like the whole thing was that they were playing bot side almost every game in spring. It was
Yeah.
just they were bot diving constantly with these
Yep.
2v2 aggressive lanes. They would just they would like flash on them, get an advantage level 1. Shun would be pathing bot, and then they would just dive them on like that stacked
Should
wave, and
be
the game
in
would be
there
over.
in the enemy jungle just waiting for
Yeah.
you. Yeah. Yeah. They bully you
They-
out. They bully the jungler out and then dive. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was beautiful to
Yeah.
watch. It was beautiful to watch.
And
It
now,
was.
if you
It
look
was
at how
great.
they're playing, like this is not how they played at all in this BLG series versus Weibo, right? Like they're playing heavily topside for the most part. Like now it's like Bin is getting agency around his lane, and bot lane is playing like Ziggs and stuff. It's like, okay, Elkanon, the biggest problem I think they had earlier on in the split is they weren't playing the 2v2 well when they weren't able to just like dominate the opponent. Like when they played these even lanes, it felt like they like forgot how to just get through lanes and farm sometimes and just trade waves, and it felt like they needed to be ahead. They were so used to being ahead. And now they're playing Ziggs. They're just trying to get through the lane. Their job is to not die. Their job is to just like exist, absorb enemy pressure, and not make anything risky happen. And Bin will like carry the game. So I feel like BLG has underwent like a huge stylistic shift in how they want to play. And I think that is the main reason why Wei is playing over Shun, is that Shun was the bot diving guy, but it felt like when that wasn't viable, he like kind of fell apart. Whereas it feels like Wei is more consistent and he plays around top lane better than Shun does. So that's kind of how I read BLG.
It's
and I think
it's
their
also
series,
been like a pretty big shakeup in the champion pool, right?
sure.
Because you know if you look at the way the champions that Knight was playing in spring, it was like Nico, Talia, Ari, like the mage champions, and now he has hard swapped into like all AD basically.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
in summer, his top 4 most played champions are Corki, Yone, Tristana, Lucian. He had 4 Tristana games in spring. I mean, that's a really big difference. That's a
it's a huge
phenomenal
difference. And it is them just like thinking that the meta is more about the top lane. Like when you play right now in LPL and you think about the teams that are strong, most of the guys are playing Ziggs. Like most of the guys have a Ziggs like in their rotation. Like Gala was playing a ton of
Yes.
Ziggs. Now it's just permaband against
Gala was
him.
always a Ziggs. Yeah, Gala was always a Ziggs player.
Yeah,
though,
but I mean
so
those
that
times
helped
where he
out.
just wasn't playing it, where it just wasn't in the meta. Where now, like, if you look at how you know, teams are playing, it's just more top side focused. Like you're playing Renekton B1, you're playing Kennen blind a lot of the time. You're playing all these champions that can't exist. I mean, they can exist sometimes completely alone, but you would prefer if they were ahead in the game. They have way more pressure in the game from ahead than behind. This isn't a licorice Renekton that you put him up there and he's just supposed to be like down 20 CS and getting solo kill. This is a Renekton that you want to be up like 50 CS. You want him to like dominate the entire game. This is a fluent Mandarin Renekton.
Well, also, I think what's interesting about especially the LPL teams is that they do the best job of translating Renekton lane leads into actual meaningful team fighting. Like they're able to transition skirmishes in the mid game, like around Herald and stuff like that, into Renekton like zoning out one of the 280 carries on the enemy team very effectively, right? And if you get in range of that Renekton, he kills you. So it really does feel like Bin's team fight positioning and his ability to snowball that Renekton advantage is like second to none in the world right now, which is, the thing is, it's like we know the potential of Renekton. It's just the potential of Renekton is very rarely reached. Like people get to the point where they can like get an advantage in lane, but they can't actually use that lead meaningfully, whereas Bin and BLG can use it extremely meaningfully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I don't know. It feels like the whole idea for BLG is trying to be more varied in their playstyles. This entire split is like they're kind of viewing it as they want to win worlds, right? Like that is the goal for this team, is just to win worlds. And they had this test at MSI and they felt like they were just too one-dimensional at MSI. When they played against Gen.G, it's like Gen.G just lane swapped. They denied like these really aggressive combos. They just dodged essentially the early lane phase, and then BLG fell apart. So now BLG is trying to add things to that because they're trying to build themselves up to be to have enough like variance in their play styles that they can contend with Gen.G, right? Like that is the goal. And it looks like probably, I mean, it's hard to tell because Top Esports has also got better, but I would assume that BLG is just going to end up winning LPL again. They just have the best players overall on their lineup, and it feels like they're playing well right now. But I think the impressive thing about BLG in this series is that they didn't win the way that they always won. They won through having good macro, good setups. Like they looked like a very LCK team in their series versus Weibo. Just a lot of control, small advantages, not much activity in terms of like not many plays being made, but the plays they did make were extremely solid and well thought through. And then they were able to just dismantle, a Weibo team that has actually been pretty good recently through that. So that was different. For Gen.G, like I still believe Gen.G is the best team in the world, but when I watch their games right now, I'm not sure like how to really like value like their current games. Like number one, this Hanwha life series just doesn't matter at all, right? Like it literally has zero
No, it was
importance.
completely irrelevant.
It's completely irrelevant series, so it's one that like I didn't even end up watching live. Like normally I would wake up for a series like that, but I'm like, what am I gonna do? Like I'm gonna watch the series, and for what reason, right? Like both teams know they're the top two teams locked in. They know they're gonna end up meeting at some point, most likely, unless T1 goes on a crazy run again. I mean, Hanwha Life has been like the clear second best team in LCK this split. They're probably going to meet later on in the tournament. So why would you actually show anything? I know they played Nasus, but Nasus is not like some secret pick. If you haven't been watching LPL, maybe you feel like, yeah, it's like something that's being commonly picked in LPL now. Shanji played it a couple times, and I think all played it as well. Like, so it's something that's being considered as being banned as well in certain games. So that's something that they're kind of just trying out in my mind. It's just like Gen.G being like, oh, let's test out an Nasus game on stage. Like, let's just see.
Well, it's also Keen is always the guy who's going to do that. I mean, he came in after 369 was playing Mordekaiser into the Skarner matchup, and he started playing that in LCK too. So he definitely has been taking a lot more notice than I think many of the other LPL tops the LCK tops in terms of what LPL is playing. And he also is just one of the most versatile tops. So he's willing to take those matchups. Like Keen is just a player who likes having quirky counterpick matchups. Like that's why he plays Rise into Rumble, right? It's why he plays Quinn. It's kind of his shtick. So
yeah, no, he's always been like good at just abusing those counter picks, and that was something that he was always known for, right? Like in terms of being like a laning top laner. I mean, for a while he was considered the best laning top laner, even when he was on Afrika and stuff. He was the best laning top laner in the LCK. So I don't know, like that series, it doesn't really tell me too much, but Gen.G recently, the thing that's kind of bothering me, I think that they'll just be better at it later on, but they just lose like kind of every early game. It feels like they're never ahead. I saw some stat recently. They like, or it wasn't a stat. It was something that I heard Yamato say it, that he has somebody who just bets on first bloods against like Gen.G constantly. And apparently in the last 12 games, first blood had like this guy just tries to find, specific advantages like that, like lines that are just like trends and stuff like that. And apparently Gen.G has lost first blood in like 12 games in a row now. Like they just always get first blooded. And when you watch their like series versus T1, like the one that Faker like banged his head after game one. I mean, that was a game where they're pretty far behind and they're kind of just like coming back all the time, and it feels pretty easy how they come back. But I just want to see more activity out of Canyon. I feel like Canyon is just like AFK jungling most of the time. Like he doesn't really like set up many plays. He kind of just like farms.
After I saw that KT series, I was out on him as my MVP pick. I mean, he was just terrible. Like on those invades, he was just terrible.
Yeah, I mean, he just does a lot of like random stuff. Like it just feels like he doesn't really have too much of a great plan for early game. It's kind of just he exists and he's like, well, we'll win anyway, regardless of what happens. But I think that this could be an issue down the line for Gen.G. Like I would hope for them that they at least come up with like some early game plans or something that's like repeatable, or some set plays, so that they have that to rely on if series are not going as well or people are not laning as well. So even though like I still believe Gen.G is the best team in the world, like they've done nothing to like improve my opinion of them in the last like 9 series or so. Like since the beginning of this like LCK summer, I feel like they've gotten worse at early game, and it's like they're still just winning mid to late because they're Gen.G. I get a little bit worried when that's how a team plays, like when it's just like, oh, we just always come back.
The power went out here in the building in Korea, so happens, I guess. Kind of unlucky, everyone.
I'm in Incheon too. My power's good. Must be just you, buddy.
Yeah.
Wait,
are you still in LS's place or no?
Yes. Oh, are you in a different part of LS's place, or is this how?
There's an emergency light, basically.
Ah,
So
wait, does this happen frequently?
it's happened before. Yeah, once.
Okay.
3 times. It's
Interesting.
happened 3 times since I've been here, but I was not here. Yeah, I wasn't here, so I lucked out. All right. So sorry I missed like the ending points.
It's all right. It's all right. I think we're ready to move on. We're ready to move
All
on,
right.
dGon.
Wait, what did we keep? What did we keep? What did we keep?
I'm keeping Gen.G. I kick BLG, but I think a lot of this has been. I agree that Gen.G has had some faults and BLG has looked a little like has tightened up, but I think that's just because one team was in the playoffs and one team
It
wasn't.
just
We'll
it
see.
just feels like for me. I mean, it's also just the playoff seeding is like way more like LPL is like. I mean, you had 8 best of threes essentially to determine like all your playoff seeding. After some replacements, everything gets thrown out, right? And then you're just playing in
Yep.
ascend group. So once you've qualified, it's like there's almost no stakes for you. And then your best of threes matter more because you drop one best of three. Like you only have 2 best of threes to drop, and you're in the fourth place seeding, which means you miss a bye, whatever. Um, I was just gonna say that it feels like I haven't really watched Gen.G play in like a month. Like when I'm watching these Gen.G games,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
it just feels like I haven't watched them really play in a month. So I'm just like
Yeah.
I'm keeping in Gen.G, and it's just like it's not like I've have any feeling towards them recently. It's almost like I'm throwing these last nine best of threes out of my mind because there's so like if you really wanted to hyperanalyze one, like I mean you can see the series versus T1 for example. It's like oh there's some like shakiness there. The early games were not great. They lost to KT. They had like the game 2 versus Sandbox that they like barely fucking stole. But like it's just like I don't know how much to weight those games. Like I don't
They
know
were
what I
losing the
should
early
be
games
analyzing there.
against Hanwha too, so
Yeah, exactly. So it's like you see all this, and I'm just kind of like assuming that they'll get it together, and I think that they're still probably the best team in the world. But I don't really know. I guess we'll see in playoffs how they look.
It's funny how like yeah, that's where I land on too, and I had to watch all those games and most of those games, but I think because of that, it makes me wonder. It's just tough, right? Because BLG's just had to work for it harder, but that doesn't mean their capacity. That doesn't necessarily mean their capacity is greater. Whereas Gen.G is like, if you see 2 like bodybuilders, right? And they're like the top of the field, but one guy already has the pump going.
Yeah.
Like that's BLG. That's BLG. So but that doesn't indicate that, Gen.G is not gonna be able to lift the same amount of weight. They just
Yeah, I
haven't
mean,
been
Gen.G is just
found
like bulking right now. Like they're just bulking. They've got like 20 pounds of fat. Like they're like, and they're just like getting ready for the cut. And then like BLG is just like went through the fucking cut. Like they're fucking dehydrated, like 2% body fat. They're like they're like flexing as hard as they can. But maybe like Ronnie Coleman, maybe Gen.G's just Ronnie Coleman comes in after
The
the
Ronnie, man.
fucking bulk, and then they start cutting, and it's just like holy fuck, we can't like this
I don't,
team
I
is
don't,
different.
I don't know how I ended up using the bodybuilding example, but that's just what came first. All right. All right, Monty. I'm gonna need you to do it because I'm on my phone.
no worries. Shout out to our other sponsor, guys, this week, which is Mando. Of course, if you guys are looking for some new soap or deodorant with some masculine aromas like bourbon leather, this may be for
Mm.
you. I also like these because they are aluminum free, so they're not an antiperspirant, but I prefer that. So there's no baking soda, no aluminum in these, and they have worked for me very effectively. So if you guys want to try it out, they have a variety of different products. They have body washes, they have bar soaps, and then they also, of course, have cream deodorant, stick deodorant, deodorant wipes, which I have also appreciated after being in my office and, marinating for a while, like just being able to use that quickly has been very clutch. And if you go camping or anything like that, just having it and being able to freshen up before you go out, definitely nice. Because you may not be dirty, but you may have been stewing a bit. And so just giving yourself a once over with that wipe, I think very nice. It's worked well for me. So if you guys want to try out Mando, if you want to try out some of their products, you can, of course, head on over and grab a starter pack. Try out a bunch of different things. It's great for new customers if you want to see some different scents and you want to try some of the variety of the products that they have. We've got a discount code to help you guys out. If you want to, these starter packs come with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, and 2 free products of your choice, like a body wash or deodorant wipes, and free shipping. New customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That code is Spike. You've got the wipes. Those I actually really like those.
I got the wipes just because the reality is, if the power doesn't come back on, it's very, very warm right now in Korea. We're
Yes.
about to be a
You're
sweaty
gonna need
mess.
them.
And got myself a deodorant wipe.
That's yeah, it's
the night.
monsoon season in Korea, no AC. Yeah, the horrible.
Yeah.
But you guys can get, if you're a new customer, get $5 off a starter pack with the code SPIKE. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code SPIKE at shopmando.com, shopmando.com. I hope you don't have to use those wipes, dGon, but if you do, I'm glad you have them.
Me too. Thanks to our friends over at Mando for making it happen here at Power Spike. All right, our last topic of the day, if I remember off the top of my dome,
Yeah,
we are
I
going
can-
to go over our All-Pro for global League of Legends,
Yes.
as well as All-Pro for Western, so that we can at least get some Western names in here.
Exactly. So, look, All Pro is going to be coming out. We're done with all the regular seasons. I thought it would be fun to talk about, and by global, I mean Asian, obviously, but our global All Pro for the summer, as well as just, we got to appease you guys who like B tier League of Legends and make you think that some of those players are actually good. So we'll do that too.
They are good. All right, let's get into it. It's this week's Galaxy Brain Club, the global All-Pro and the Western Pro. All right, let's start with global. And I mean, we just talked about 2 of the best teams in the world with BLG and Gen.G. Who do we slot into this All-Pro from those 2 squads? And then I imagine, maybe we pull from a Weibo, maybe we, in my head, like Jackie Love might be the one that I slot in there. But what do we have here, Monty? What are you thinking?
Well, I think when you look at top lane, so if we go, top to bottom in terms of positions, I think Bin has been like an MVP candidate over an LPL. I wouldn't necessarily say the same thing about Keen, but Keen is obviously going to be up there. 369 is probably going to be up there. I do think it gets pretty shaky as far as LCK goes in terms of top laners right now. So I'd probably lean more towards Bin being like first team All Pro at this point in time. I also think he's just been more crucial to the success of BLG as a team than maybe Keen has, even though I think Keen is, I'm a huge fan of Keen, right? But Bin, I think, has had a outstanding like carry split. So I think I'd go with him personally.
Yep. I think it's a pretty clear, like, when I watch Keen, he doesn't really have to. It feels like Gen.G, like the players, they don't have to do too much. I mean, I'm still gonna obviously give it to Chovy when it comes to.
Oh, of course, Chovy in mid lane, yes.
Yeah, mid lane, right? I'm still gonna give it for to Chovy when we get over to mid, but for the other players on Gen.G, I feel like they haven't had to do too much to like really like show how good they can be, because like we said, they qualify. I mean, they've been qualified for playoffs so early. Even going into the second, especially the way that their schedule was, like they didn't have the Hanwha Life game earlier in the split, where maybe they would have had to guarantee their top 2. Like it's a really important match. Like towards the end here, they haven't really had to show much, as we've said. So I'm gonna give it to Bin. I mean, he's been a carry top. I think Bin is just also one of the most talented players in the entire world. Like he's in that conversation for like top 3 most talented players right now globally in League.
With Chovy and who?
I think it depends. I mean, like third, it's kind of hard to say. I mean, there's a lot of people that could be in there. I mean, I think Zeus is also supremely talented, but he hasn't been playing like well recently. Like he's just had a lot of really in-depths. But he's somebody else who strikes me as like, damn, they've got that just like innate League of Legends ability, just that unteachable just feeling for the game.
Yeah. All right. So we've got top. Let's move jungle here. I think we all agreed on Bin, and I would have put them there too. Here, I think I put Kenyon, but from what it sounded like, you guys would.
I would not put him anywhere close to that.
Yeah.
I think like for me, like earlier in the split, I was advocating for Kenyon, but like the last few matches have really soured me on him. Tarzan is obviously going to be way up there in this meta, like after the summer placement. If we delete summer placements and just count summer season, Tarzan's going to be up there. I will slide in a cheeky Peanut here as well as a candidate because I don't think Hanwha Life has the record they have right now if Peanut is not absolutely mind controlling this team and getting huge advantages in the early game, having great pathing in the early game. Like Peanut actually has been quite good this split, and I feel like that's kind of fallen by the wayside. But I think Tarzan probably deserves this one.
I would give it to Tien. I would feel like Tien. Like, what does Tien need to do? Like, what does he need to do at this point? Like, I don't think he's actually the best jungler in the world, but like in terms of performance, like for doing all pro, I mean, he literally won MVP of the league and then rocked up yesterday 3-0'd, had like 3 like just.
I mean, he was really good. His counter jungling was very good in that series.
He was he's just been extremely insane, and it's like I don't believe in him. I don't want people to get this like confused with like me believing in him going like internationally or something. I do not believe in Tien, but he has just kind of been the GOAT this split.
Damn. Okay. All right. Well,
I got
3
Tarzan.
different options for everyone.
I got Tarzan.
I think if we're going to discount the different matches from Gen.G over the last 9 games, then I think that also includes some of like the mindless performances that Canyon had.
But I actually do think that Peanut's consistency has been absolutely fantastic in LCK.
Peanut is what I found out recently is that because I'm the analysis host, I don't get an all pro vote for LCK. So
What?
all the guys are in the chat. Yeah, I know. I was like, what? Like I sat here and watched like all the games the most, and I get a vote for LCS, which I forgot to send, but I got one. Anyways, it was a bummer. But all the guys are like putting their thing in. Peanut is, I think, my third MVP. I think he carried that squad like very, very. Yeah. So I think that's a really good one.
Peanut, like if you're an LCK watcher and you don't really know what it's like to watch Tien is just essentially Peanut. Just the same way, like if Peanut was the MVP of LCK, you know how like you would go into like you'd go into Worlds and you'd have probably just Peanut going to Worlds alongside Canyon and alongside Owner, and you just think that Canyon and Owner are better players than Peanut, regardless of what Peanut actually would do in LCK. That's like the same thing with Tien. That's like Tien versus players like Wei and players like I guess it would be probably Tarzan going. It's just you think that Tarzan and Wei are just better players because you see their mechanics, they just look better. And like when Tien has an off game, it looks wrong. And we all saw like the Peanut Shyvana games. You watch Peanut play Shyvana and you're like, motherfucker, you are not high elo. Like I can just tell you right now, you are not like top of the ladder in LCK. Like you just smell of some like GM funk. And Tien is the same way. He smells of that GM funk too, but he is just extremely good at playing pro League of Legends. And that's how a lot of players are. Like not everyone is Canyon, who's at the top of the ladder, insane mechanically, but also really good in pro. Sometimes you have players that just get it, that just like understand how they just understand like how the game should work at a pro level. They're very good at just playing the chess game of pro jungling. And Peanut and Tien are those guys, like Peanut can out jungle anyone in the world if he gets a good enough game state and he just like understands what he needs to do. Like he knows what to do. It's just sometimes you're going to see some ugly Shyvana E's. This is what it is.
You're gonna see some messes that require some Mando. Yeah.
Love it. All right, mid is Chovy. Any objections?
Nope.
Great.
All right, let's
He's
go.
Been the most consistent. 80, I think, is tough. Actually.
Yep.
Yeah.
80 is super tough. You can throw almost anyone here.
Yeah, like I thought Jackie would probably fit well here. Aiming for D+, I think could fit really well here.
Dude, I'm all on the aiming. I'm all on the fucking aiming hype right now. By the way, he would be my first team all pro ADC right now for Korea. So aiming has been like criminally underrated. He is literally
he's been a criminal for sure.
At times, he's literally over 100 kills ahead of the next ADC in the league. It's crazy, like the gap between him and the next person. I mean, it's a great aiming meta, but aiming is also
there's
really
a huge gap in most things with aiming. Like that is keep on going, Monty. Just keep on going. Like,
I think aiming's had a great split.
Yeah,
I think he's been good. He's somebody that I don't fully believe in, but I do think he's been pretty good.
No. You absolutely should not fully believe in him, but this split has been eerie. I would say, for aiming. We
Yeah.
haven't seen any like disgusting Kog'Maw incidents like we saw in spring. He's just been really, really solid. So when aiming gets the aiming meta and he gets all the money, he can do magical things. And I just don't think D plus is anywhere near as good as they are without aiming having this pop off performance in summer.
Right, but I think
Definitely.
with that, you live by him, you die by him. There was in the BNK Fearek, your Sandbox Boys series, he had
Yep.
Kaisa, which he's looked really great on. He's like killer instinct into a couple, like into like death, and that's how they lost the game. And there's
I
a
mean,
couple
he
of
also
those.
he also
He lost
lost
like
the he
14
lost
and
their
0 or
Gen.G series. He lost the Gen.G series by eing into the Gen.G. Like they could have won that series.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So he'll get you really, really far, but all those eggs are in that basket, then you got to live with it. And I think that's if that's your all pro because he can get that far ahead and he has that much impact on the game. I think that's just kind of like a.
Well,
That's why I
it's
look
also
at
that
Jackie and just like look how dominant he is.
Viper's looked a lot rougher recently too.
Sure. Viper, Guma,
yeah.
like the only other AD carrier that has been absolutely stand out is Pays, which
Yeah.
we know how you feel about Pays, Monty.
I just don't think you can be first team all pro ADC when Chovy's on your roster. I just don't think that's a thing.
I think you can. I think it depends on how well you play. Like, it is what it is. But yeah, I could go with aiming. I mean, aiming has had like a lot of just really insane games where he just has an ungodly amount of kills and stuff like that. And he does feel like he is carrying D plus really hard a lot of the time. So yeah, I mean, I'm fine with putting aiming there. It's just the same thing as Tien, where it's just like solely performance, but I don't actually believe in them. Like I don't believe in them as a player. Like I don't think he'll be the best AD in playoffs. Like if he goes against Viper in a playoff series, I think Viper is just gonna wreck him.
Why not Jackie? Why not Jackie Love?
Jackie's had some pretty big int moments. I feel like just he's just had some like really weird deaths and just like he's just had some of those Jackie Love moments more than he had in the previous split. Like previous split, I think he was playing like really, really insane. Where now he's still playing insane, but if you like are nitpicking, there's a lot of times where I wouldn't say it's a lot of times. There's a few times where he's really inted where you just don't get away with that if other people are not performing super well. And if you look at top esports, I mean, 369 is having pretty good split. He had a great series, by the way. Like he had a great
Yeah, he
series.
played amazing.
Yeah, he had an insane series. Tien's been playing really well. It's one of those things where like top esports, I guess they're also probably performing at a really high level. I mean, the way they 3-0'd LNG, it was like it didn't matter that they were third seed versus second seed. It looked like we've got a BLG top esports LPL right now.
369's Mordekaiser games were fucking crazy the way he was just like hard winning team fights with his like flash engages.
Yeah, I mean, even just like the 1v1 he played against the Cassante when he had like Proto Belt, where he just does. It's not like he has like a Leandri's, Rift Maker. Like, he's super strong in that 1v1. He has Proto Belt in that 1v1, and he just hit every Q on a Cassante. Like you play Mordecai, so that's one of the hardest skill shots to hit is like a Q versus somebody that has a bunch of dashes. Hits every Q and a Z versus a Cassante, just murders him. Proto Belt to the blast cone, flash over Proto Belt to the blast cone to chase him. It was like, damn, bro. Like when 369 does shit like that, it's like, okay, bro. People should not disrespect you.
All right. Well, we're in there for the bot lane.
I also think like, especially because when we move on to support, like Mako's name is also going to be in the ring. I would pick Mako here, honestly.
I would pick
best support too.
He's been insane.
Yeah,
Mako's been really good.
For LCK, it's Duro's come in for BNK Fearx, and to me, he got my third team all pro vote. But otherwise, you had Delight and Lehens, and if you're rating, Lehens has had some silly moments, and
the problem with Delight and Lehens is like, who do you actually put first team all pro? Like, I think you can argue either way for that one, but Mako has been so consistently excellent on engaged support that in this meta of summer, it just feels like he has really stood out.
Yeah, I would say that as well. I think Lehens is, ooh, it's like it's just the same thing. I feel the same way about most Gen.G players, to be honest. Like outside of Chovy, I'm just like they're better than how they're playing. Like I don't want to look too much into like because you could nitpick Lehens, right? You can look at that game that, like, for example, the game 1 versus T1. I mean, he was just running it. Like he was running it down in that game. But it ended up being okay in the end. They ended up winning some team fights. Faker was damned if he did, damned if he didn't, and had to Valkyrie into 5 people and die. So it is what it is.
I mean, the thing about Lehens though is like when push comes to shove, like he does have really extraordinary games and high pressure situations, and his variety of like weird picks, like his blitz games that he just pulls out in do or die situations are fucking amazing, right?
Yeah.
So he absolutely can't pop off. It's just I feel
Lehens
like
has that factor where he just has like this like unique view of support and what you can do that we just don't see. I used to compare him a lot to like Hilly in previous years when Hilly was playing well, because he just had like this vision of like what he could do. And I just remember like being really impacted, like the way that I saw him play with like Spellbook on Rakan, like when Spellbook Rakan was a thing, the way that he would use like summoner spells to like really maximize situations and just like think about support outside of the confines of just actually being a support player, I thought was really special. He just has like a good mind for League. I mean, we saw like obviously back in the day when he would play Singed into Yumi, like that was like his counter. That was something that he was really good at. It just shows that he has this overall like idea of support that it feels like Delight to me is excellent at playing within the confines of a support role. Like when you look at just like pure like, okay, if we're gonna play only these 5 champions and they're just pure supports, like let's say we eliminated everything else in support down to you are just playing like Lulu, Rakan, like Nautilus, Leona, and fucking like Thresh or some shit. We like limited to those 5 champions, that we only play those 5 champions for the rest of eternity. It would be like the light would be insane, you know. But then when you add in everything else you could do in League of Legends, then I think Lehens is just a better comprehensive player, I would say.
All right, well, boom. There's our global All Pro. Over in the top lane, we had Bin. At jungle, we had a variety of picks. Pick your flavor between Tien, Peanut,
Tarzan.
Tien, Tarzan, and Chovy, and Peanut.
Canyon.
No, Peanut.
Canyon.
Sorry, Canyon. I didn't mean Chovy. Canyon. In mid lane, decisively Chovy. Sorry, Knight. At bot, we went with aiming, and at support, we're going with Mako. That's a really cool mix. I liked that.
Yeah,
and
fun.
I was glad that we didn't stick with just one team or just stick with the one region either. All right, but let's knock out our Western All Pro here. Yeah, yeah. You know,
Impact.
it's just G2,
Impact
right? We're just picking
Impact,
G2 all the way. Oh, sorry. Sorry,
No,
Broken Blade.
Broken Blade's
social
been a
media
bit
guy.
scuffed, unfortunately. Broken Blade has been a bit scuffed recently.
Yeah, I'll go Impact Razork for my jungle.
Yep.
I think Razork has
Impact
been
Razork, Caps.
Yeah, Caps, I guess.
We're going bot. Where we're going
AD,
bot.
I'm going Yeon. I think Yeon's played excellent this year.
Wow, the rise of Yeon just
Yeah,
continues.
I mean,
to
he's just had. I mean, look,
man.
if you just play well, I'll say you play well. If you play like shit, you play like shit. I think Yeon's been really good.
I was gonna say no Hans.
Hans has been pretty good. He's been better this split.
Ice?
I would say. Ice has been.
Yeah, Ice would be the other one I was thinking of as well, but I don't. I feel like it's hard to topple that because of the team.
Yeah, I think Yeon has been extremely good. Personally, I think he's been better than those guys.
All right, I'll take Yeon.
Money, what do you think?
And then core for support.
Yep. I mean, TL's just been by far the best Western team right now. Like, I don't think it has to be like this. Like, G2 could play better. I mean, if we looked last year at this point, we would have been like, oh, G2 is looking so much fucking better than like NRG. We would have been like, holy shit, NRG has no chance. And then like NRG ended up being. So I'm not saying that G2 can't get it together. It's just there's no way you could watch G2 over this like last month and a half where they've just had like a horrible stretch, the worst stretch in the history of this roster, and they're still winning championships, but they still won a championship playing at their worst level ever. But I can't look at like the way they're performing right now and like give them all pro first team nods in the West. Like I just can't do it, because a lot of the games did come down to like everyone in like Mickey X having horrible series, you know, just dying over and over. Hans being super behind Noah as well. Like bot lane is just giga losing, and then Caps just carries the whole game because Fnatic has bad macro. It's like it's very hard for me to see that and then be like, yeah, Mickey X is the best. Like you have to. We're doing this, or at least I'm doing this based off performance in the last.
Yeah.
Split. Only. Don't care about anything else besides from performance in the last split. No history, no like longevity, trajectory,
Contract
stuff like that.
Value,
like nothing like that. It's just purely based off performance. I can't give it to G2 players right now outside of Caps.
The only one for me is Hans. I I just feel like he's done a lot with, like we said, with Mickey having a tough split.
I think that's fair. I think AD is probably the closest, and then like support, I think it's core, and then maybe Jun. But yeah, I think AD is like the murkiest, both in the global and in the Western All Pro.
All right, so to recap here. Oh, the only one I'd also push is Inspired for Razork, but whatever. That's close. That's
Look, I need to start giving Razork some credit publicly, because we are in a very bad era that I know in like 5 years I'm going to be so annoyed talking about this discussion, because I'll be saying things, because this happens with everyone, right? I'll be saying that Razork was better than Yike, and then people are going to be hitting me with Yike won 6 titles and Razork won 0, by the way. And like by that time, Yike will probably have like 15 titles
15.
or something crazy. Like, he'll have like 18 titles, because he's winning 4 a year.
I'll just wrap it back around to, that's the perception that people have of Tom Brady too, to the start of our conversation.
True. True.
Just ignore all the other factors, right?
Yeah, it's just like different levels.
Tom Brady
right?
was truly the Yike of football.
He's the Yike of football. Okay. All right.
That's
I
not
still have Tom Brady as my GOAT.
okay. Yeah, I was like, that's not equivalent. Don't let him get away with this, Dom. Like,
Yeah. I still have Tom Brady as my GOAT. Monty said that.
All right, let's recap this. All right, in the top lane, it was Impact. In jungle, it was Razork or Inspired if you're based. In mid lane, it was Caps. In bot, it was Yon or Hans, and then core. So it was a lot of TL representation there.
Yeah, I mean, those by far the best
they've been
Western
really
team
good
right now. Like, this is what it is. Like, they're actually
really
playing good league,
Yeah.
which I'm happy about, because like, I mean, this is a time where if we did like a top 10 teams, Western teams, Monty would throw TL in there, and then people would lose their minds.
Absolutely.
top 10 global teams. I absolutely would. Like, I think they would be very comfortably a playoff team in Korea at the current point in time. So,
definitely.
like, very comfortably.
I would take Box for sure. For sure. I would probably take them over KT, to be honest.
Oh, obviously.
Yeah.
Is that even a question? Like, I think they would probably be like 4th best team in Korea. I think that's fair.
Oh my God, the storylines right himself. TL versus Pioshik, versus LCK. Like, hell yeah, let's write that shit. All right, just real quick, who would you at peak? Because right now TL is playing a little bit more peak, and what we imagine G2 would be at. Who would you take? Would you take the peak of TL or the peak of G2?
Peak of G2, but
peak of G2, but it depends on like what peak we're talking about. Like, I guess.
Of this team. Like let's say we're at Worlds. They're both playing well.
I mean, their MSI performance was really good. G2's. And the thing is like the thing about G2 is that they are capable of playing very non-standard league in a really brilliant way. And I think that's like they have an X factor that Team Liquid doesn't have, against top teams. Like they have an upset factor.
Yeah, they could potentially beat a team that's top 2. I mean, they did it, right? Like, they beat Top Esports. But I mean, I would say Top Esports also played bad, but they could beat a second seed that was playing like well by just hitting them with enough weird shit and
having enough like cool level 1s like they do.
Yeah. They have that like ability to play from behind, where I feel like TL is going to be like kind of capped. Like, there's going to be a certain team that they just can't beat, but they will be able to consistently beat like I would say right now they could probably consistently beat 4 seeds from LPL LCK, which is huge in my mind. But I mean, who knows what ends up happening?
Yeah, kind of. I think for them, it's one of those things where they won't know they're able to do it until they do it. Whereas G2's been there, they've done that, and I think that's fair. It's
also just the way the team is structured. Like, I feel like there's a lot more freedom with G2. Like, G2 is kind of like play your picks. Like, if it doesn't work out, we'll figure it out. Like, they're trying to incorporate more things, where like TL is like trying to play
systems,
Korean
baby.
League of Legends. They're trying to play like perfect Korean League of Legends, and they're just like leveling up. They're like, okay, so we've hit this. Okay, now we have to get better at this. Now we have to get better at this, and they're just trying to like work their way up until they're like a top team in the world. They're trying to just become the top team in the world, like step by step. Where G2's trying to like be like, all right, fuck everything. We arrived at this boot camp. How are we going to win worlds? Let's just do our own thing. And if their own thing is like, we're going to try lane mid from level 1, we're going to have 3 people mid. That's going to be how we play. That's like, we tried in scrims. That's what feels best. That's what's going to work for us. They'll just do that and end up, fucking being
fixing it after they
insane
go
based off that.
0-1. Oh yeah, that too.
Look, I just don't think that Team Liquid's going to be that team that rocks up and plays like Halo Blade support Poppy and starts dominating fools with it. You know what I mean? Like that's just not them.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you have it. That was a action-packed episode of Power Spike here with a delay into power outage. The power outage. This one light. That's all I've got here.
All right. Good luck. Go find some air conditioning. Go to a bar.
Thank you. Thanks to all of our friends, all of the sponsors. Thank you to all of you watching and that stuck around. If you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe over at Last Free Nation and here on Power Spike across all the different platforms we have the show. And then let us know who your global and Western all-pro teams are for the split. And don't cheat, just put your favorite ones. Actually think about it. Who's done well, and like Dom and like Monty, give the flowers to the people that maybe you don't like, but have played well. All right, y'all. Until then, we'll see you next week for more Power Spike. Thanks for watching and see ya.